As I said at 6 p.m., thanks for joining us. My name is Barb Boschert. This is the Community Advisory Board meeting for the Central Phoenix Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund sites. Um, uh, we're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to let you know a couple of things before we get started. First and foremost, we're having some Zoom issues today. So if we have any issues during the meeting tonight, it's possible I may have control of the meeting taken out of my hands. If I'm unable to communicate with you through audio or video, please just disengage from the meeting and we will reconvene at another time. I may not be able to announce that you should do that, so I wanted to let you know that could happen. If you have any questions during our presentations tonight, feel free to put them in chat, raise your hand. The controls are either at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on what you're using, a computer or a phone. You can ask them during the presentation if there's a suitable pause, or at the end of the presentation. There will be plenty of time for everybody to ask every question that they'd like to ask. Typically, at the end of our presentations, we like to have our community advisory board members ask their questions first, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions from the remaining attendees at the meeting. So we will have a chance for everybody to comment and ask questions on all of our presentations. So, as I said, I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Remedial Projects section at the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. I'd like to introduce or have themselves introduce the rest of our ADQ team here. So I'll have them introduce themselves, but we'll take it one by one. Let's start with our project managers in attendance tonight. We'll start with Kyle Johnson. Kyle, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Kyle Johnson. I am the project manager for the Central and Camelback Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund site. And I work as an engineer for the state.
Thanks, Kyle. And let's go to Eric Manline next.
Hello, everybody. Eric Manline here. I'm a project manager and an engineer for ADEQ, similar to Kyle. I am the project manager of the now delisted 16th Street and Camelback Wharf site, and I also took over project management responsibilities for 7th Avenue and Bethany Home Road from the very capable Michael Morales, but he went on to work on a different project. So I'm managing that project as of March of this year.
Thanks, Eric. And then our last project manager on tonight is Dr. Hazel Cox. Hazel, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. I'm Dr. Hazel Cox. I am the project manager for the 7th Street and Missouri Avenue wharf site, and I'm also the senior hydrogeologist for the remedial project section.
Thanks, Hazel. And then on the line, we have Brittany McBain. Brittany is our other community outreach coordinator in the remedial projects section. She's attending tonight. So do you want to say hi, Brittany, to the group?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Like Barb said, my name is Brittany. I'm the new Barb, essentially the new community involvement coordinator. Started a couple months ago. And yeah, I'm just working with Barb and on taking on some of these cabs and public meetings with her.
Great. Thanks, Brittany. And then finally, we have Tom Titus, who is the head honcho of us all here in the remedial projects section. So you want to say hi to everybody, Tom?
Yeah, I'm not really the head honcho. This is Tom Titus. I'm just a wharf unit manager.
He's our head honcho. There are others above him, but he's our head honcho. And then we've got, I see we've got a whole bunch of community advisory board members here tonight. Thank you so much for attending. That means we have a quorum, a majority of the members attending, so we'll be able to take care of cab business tonight. So if you all would like to introduce yourselves, I see right at the top of my list, we've got Chad Johnson here. Chad, you want to start with you and introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Chad Johnson. Been on the board here for a little bit, and just here to help out. Actually, I do not live in the area like a lot of other people do. I work in the area, so it makes it nice and easy for me to catch things here at the office and then head home.
That's great. Thank you. And I see we've got Matthew Newman here. Are you able to say hello, Matthew? And if not, that's okay. Maybe he can't unmute. How about Stan? Stan Watts?
Hi, I'm Stan, and it's good to see some of the folks I haven't seen for a year or so or more. Uh, I've been on the cab since 2003, I think, and we're all a little bit grayer than I remember us being. So.
This advisory board is coming up soon on its 25th anniversary, believe it or not. So you're one of the long-termers, I guess. That's wonderful. Thank you for serving for so long. That's a testament to your community. Lynn, I see you're on the line. Do you want to say hello?
Yeah. Yeah. Hi. I was on the original board. I've been here all those years, and I'm hardly any older. And it's good to see you all again.
Yeah, me too. I stopped aging at 39, I think.
Amen.
Do we have any other cab members here? I thought we had a fifth member here. Do we have any other cab members here?
Bar Panero. I'm a longtime cab member. And as someone referenced, it's nice to see people I haven't seen in a while, Chad Johnson and Stan Watts in particular. If I'm forgetting someone, apologies. I've been a long time member, and I was brought in by people who were here much longer than me before me. Their names were Gene Schroeder and Vivian Price, and other people may remember them. They were venerable members and have actually passed away, but still live strong in a lot of people's memories. Thank you all.
That's great. That's
Oh, and I retired in the time I've been on the cab, so I'm just slacker doing nothing. Glad to be here.
I doubt you're doing nothing. But thanks for being here. And I see in chat, Matthew said, yeah, he got his controls going and he's glad to be here and participating. So yes, we do have a quorum for the cab. We have a majority, so we're good to go as far as the cab meeting. So are there any members attending from the public that would like to introduce themselves? You're not required to, but you're very happy to introduce yourself if you would like to while you're here. Feel free to speak up.
Hi, I'm Beth Zima. I'm with the City of Phoenix.
Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, we're happy everybody's here attending, regardless. Okay, let's get right into the presentations. Looks like we're going to start with a presentation on 7th Avenue and Bethany Home Road. So if you'll give me just a second, I'll pull that up for you. And take it away, Eric.
All right, thank you, Barb.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. I will be presenting tonight on 7th Avenue and Bethany Home Road. Next slide, please. So you've probably already seen this, so I won't spend too much time on this slide. I will say, though, that there was a typo in the PDF that was sent to you all The WQARF registry listing was August 2004. It wasn't August 2015 that you may have seen in your PDF, so that has been corrected. Right now, we're in the remedy implementation. You can see where it's in bold, and it's an ongoing process. That was implemented the year that the ROD was signed in June in 2016. And so that's primarily what we'll be talking to you about in this work presentation. All right, next slide. So just as a refresher, the background on this site, the contaminants of concern, primarily PCE and the degradation products, TCE, vinyl chloride, and cis-1,2-DCE. The TCE came from former dry cleaning facilities. It's a very common solvent that's used by dry cleaners. The two source properties were the SCI property and the Bayless property. The current impacted media is groundwater, and the potential receptors are a Salt River Project water supply well to north, very north of the plume off of Maryland Avenue. All right, next slide, please. So this is the site location. Plume really hasn't changed since our last CAB meeting. As you can see, we have two plumes there. We have the smaller one to the west, the 7th Avenue, and then we have the larger one where the toe of the plume is just right along Maryland Avenue. And as you can see, I think hopefully you can read that. You have 7th Avenue and Bethany Home Road on that that southern corner. Next slide, please. So per the record of decision, the selected remedy is in situ enhanced reductive dechlorination. The injections were started around the time that the ROD was signed, or actually after the ROD was signed in 2016, and final injections were completed in 2023. Right now, we're doing a performance monitoring of the ERD remedy. We're monitoring the natural attenuation or the natural degradation of the plume, and we have a contingency for the wellhead treatment of the SRP well to the north. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this last fiscal year, we conducted 2 groundwater monitoring events per the ROD. We did one in October 2024. We did another one in the spring, in May. We also performed sampling for PFAS in November 2024. It was part of just a sampling program throughout many of our WQARF sites. In March through June, we added some new groundwater monitoring wells. We did have some data gaps in the plume that we wanted to address. We had a very good idea where the plume was, but we just needed some confirmation wells. And so that's what we did the last part of the fiscal year. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the current PCE plume. As you can see, it hasn't changed from the site map that I showed you a few slides ago. That the site map was taken in 2022. That figure was created in 2022, and this is the most recent plume that we drew from the May groundwater sampling event. The orange dots represent the new wells that we installed during this fiscal year. All those wells had concentrations of PCE that were either non-detect, that is detected below laboratory detection limits, or they were below aquifer water quality standards. We had one hit of PCE. It was around 1.3 parts per billion in a MW26D. But that was really it. So we didn't have any indications that the plume had moved or had spread. Next slide, please. So this is the operation and maintenance schedule per the ROD. We finished with our quarterly monitoring, years 1 through 7. Right now, we're in the semi-annual monitoring phase. That's going to go years 8 through 12, which takes us to 2028. The annual monitoring will then be years 13 to 15. So that's where we will just do one round of groundwater monitoring per year. And we've completed with the annual O&M. That's an annual evaluation of the ERD remedy and its effectiveness.
And O&M is operation and maintenance. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Yeah.
Thank you, Barb. Next slide. So we're going to continue with our site-wide semi-annual groundwater monitoring. We're planning on having another fall and spring groundwater monitoring event, 6 months apart. And we're also due for a periodic site review, and that's where we review the ROD. We look at the remedy and see how it's performed and see if we're meeting the spirit of the ROD and what was intended in the ROD and how we're doing with regards to the remedial objectives for the site. And if you have any questions, you can contact Barb or myself. Our information is listed here. I'm also in the PDF that was sent to you. And that's all I have.
Yeah,
Any
now
questions, please? Yeah.
on the agenda, we've got it shown that questions are after all of the presentations. We don't have to follow the agenda exactly in order. Obviously, it would be easier to ask questions and answer them after each presentation. So that's what we'll do. So if anyone has any questions about this particular site for Eric, please go ahead and ask them now. And you can ask them again later if you think of something later. But if you have anything now or comments, please go ahead now.
Just a comment, Paul Barquero. This particular area has been coincidentally of interest to me. There was a well-known barber shop, no longer there, that many people in the community frequented. And it's always of interest to us. I mentioned this to them without giving them too much detail, that this is a site that the city is working with, and that oddly enough, where we were working and doing all this, getting our haircuts, turns out to be a bit of a toxic thing. Just an amusing point. Thanks.
Interesting. Anything else from anybody? All right. Well, thank you, Eric. Eric will be back a little bit later to talk about the site we just closed. I also want to point out that these presentations, all of our presentations, as well as the recording of the meeting, will be on the site, on the ADQ website by Friday. And if you'd like a copy of these presentations or of the recording prior to then, I'm happy to send them to you. Just contact myself or any of the other people involved with the meeting at DEQ. We'll be happy to get them to you. So we'll go ahead and get the next presentation up. The next presentation looks like it will be 7th Street and Missouri. So let me stop this. Thanks, Eric. Very going. And this will be Dr. Cox. Take it away.
Hi. So hello again. You can just call me Hazel, that's fine. I'm going to be presenting on the 7th Street and Missouri Avenue site. It is located right in the middle of all of the other Central Tucson sites, although with 16th Street and Camelback being delisted, it will be on the edge the next time you see this figure. Go to the next slide. So the background for this site, we had tetrachloroethene or PCE in soil and groundwater, and then just a little bit of TCE near the former Circle K leaking underground storage tank site that was located across the street. And you guys who have seen me present before know that I love to point at figures, so this is going to be very challenging for me. I always love to demonstrate wildly at the figures that I'm talking about. So Bob, I'm sure will do her best to follow my wild gesticulations that I would usually have. Yeah, so the source of that was determined to be from the former Keno Drapery Dry Cleaning, which was located on the southeast corner. There you go. So yeah, southwest corner. It is now underneath a new building that was built in the 80s, relatively new in terms of the contamination. So there's also a receptor of the Salt River Project well that is just to the north of just north of the source area. In 2018, we put in 2 early response actions, one being a soil vapor extraction system within the footprint of the former dry cleaner. And then we installed one and then a second ozone injection system for the groundwater. as early response actions. Then we finalized the record of decision in 2021.
Sorry, got hung up. Hold on one
okay.
sec. Got hung up.
That's okay.
Uh,
Oh, this figure, while Bob's doing that, we also have multiple monitoring wells, as you can see across the site, and then the injection wells for the ozone system are also shown as stars. And I'll talk some more about those once
there we go.
Bob has figured out the controls. There we go. So, as with the site Eric just talked about, site is in the long-term operation and maintenance phase of our wharf process. The LOD selected soil vapor extraction initially for 3 years, but we had a contingency for an extra 3 years, which we did trigger that contingency in 2024 due to the fact we were still pulling out mass of PCE with that system. The groundwater was selected as the in situ chemical oxidation via ozone injections through the end of this year. So you'll see in some results here in a bit that we might need to trigger contingency for that for a couple extra years of operation on that system as well. And then it was 30 years of groundwater monitoring. So what have we done in this last year? Well, one of the things is we installed a new injection well, OS7. You can see it highlighted on the east side of 7th Street there. That was installed more in a shallower zone than all of our other injection wells. And I will talk more about that in the next slides. We also had a replacement injection well on the west side of the street. So our very first one we put in, the 7M SW01, the shallow well broke. It just shattered. So fortunately, the deep well was unaffected in that location. So we just had to reinstall a shallow injection well in that location. And we also installed another monitoring well to the north there. That was to monitor any concentrations between the source area and that SRP well to the north. The other things we did this year, we did another SVE rebound test, and then the performance monitoring and annual groundwater monitoring. So these are the results from the groundwater monitoring. This was in March of this year. As you can see, most of the concentrations are relatively low towards that 5 micrograms per liter aquifer water quality standard that's for PCE and TCE. With the exception of MW106, if we ignore that for a moment, the source wells that was MW201 and 108 have both fallen dramatically in concentration since we started the remedy with the rod. And TCE as well has also decreased in that MVW3 by an order of magnitude since we started that as well. So that is also on its way down. MW106, however, continues to have some higher concentrations in it. I think that was all I wanted to say on this slide. Yeah. So this is just a graphical representation of what I just said, that since we started the final remedy, we've seen most wells decrease generally down to concentrations where we would be able to switch to monitoring rather than active remediation. However, MW106 remains high, and yeah, that's the one there. But even some of the downgradient ones like MW105, which is a light blue line, that one is pretty far down gradient, and that one has gone below aquifer water quality standards. So we're seeing remedial effects even in the down gradient portion of the plume, which we're very, very happy about. Okay, next one. So this is what was going on with MW106. So the last time I presented on this to you guys, we had just installed OS6, which was an injection well to try and address the higher concentrations we were seeing around MW106 at that time. When we drilled that, we used sonic drilling, which is a more accurate method of determining what the lithology is, what the types of soils and aquifer materials are that we're drilling through, than what was used when MW106 was installed. And what we found was there's actually a tighter layer, there's a less permeable layer of materials immediately around where MW106 was set. So if you look at the boring log for 106, it shows it was mostly sand. And when we drilled OS06, we actually found it was a clay or silty material instead. So our hypothesis is that the PCE has got caught up in that less permeable layer. So we have now installed OS7 in that zone directly to try and treat that higher recalcitrant area of concentrations. So then on the SVE, this was the reason that we kept it turned on was we saw, we've seen great results from the system. We've decreased the concentration in the influent from over 5 million micrograms per cubic meter down to as low as about 600. And that bounces up and down now depending on if the system has been turned on or off. But we have seen a diminishing return. So as you can see in 2023, we removed 81 pounds. And then 2024, we removed 12. And then just this last year, we only saw 2.2 pounds removed. That brings the system total up to 1,017 pounds of PCE removed from the subsurface. So that's great. But even though comparatively 2 seems like a small number, we are still pulling 2 pounds of mass out of the ground and treating it. So we are looking this year at doing more rebound. So basically cycling the system on and off to see if we can encourage a little more PCE to come out of some of those fine grained layers, like kind of like we're seeing across the street. So for this year, we will be, like I said, doing that cyclical operation of the SVE system, and then probably evaluating completing that remediation and shutting the system down. Then we'll also be doing the operation of the ozone system and the performance monitoring to see the effects of OS7. So we're really hopeful that we will finally have figured out what was going on with that MW106 area and be able to bring that down to a point where we can move on with the monitored attenuation part of the rod. And we'll be doing our annual groundwater monitoring as well. I believe that is all that we have for the update on that site. So does anyone have any questions or comments?
Anybody?
I have a question, Hazel. This is Stan Watts.
Hey.
I'm not entirely understanding what the remedial process is in the soil that you found more density in the 106. Could you explain that a little more for me?
Yes, definitely. So where you have kind of, you can think of it as like a tighter soil, so it's harder for stuff to move through it. So when we were injecting into the sands below it, there was no real reason for it to enter that layer. So it was just moving around it in the sands. So now we've installed an injection well into that fine grain layer. It has to move through that layer to get out, right? So that's what we are hoping will happen. And we've done some injection testing in that well, because injecting into finer grain zones can be more difficult. Obviously, sort of trying to think like blowing down through a straw in sand versus in clay, right? You almost wouldn't be able to blow in if it was a clay. But the injection tests that we did seem to show that we were able to inject into that layer. So,
And is the injection at one point in the column or throughout the column?
I apologize. I should have put the injection screens of the new well on there, but we have, I believe, 2 points within that zone.
Thank you.
That's a great question.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, if anybody thinks of anything, please let us know later. Oops. Let me pull up the next one. Oops, 1 second. Okay. So the next presentation will be Central Ave and Camelback Road. Love that intersection. Has my favorite C's candy there. So, oh, I love C's. Let's see. Is that going to be you, Kyle?
That'll be me.
All right. Let's get that up. Oh, goodness. There you go. Take it away.
Well, let's see how dry I can make a presentation about groundwater. All right, so we'll be discussing the Central and Camelback Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund site. From here on out, I'm going to call that WQARF because Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund is a giant mouthful, and I don't have the time to say it. So the chart you see in front of you is a flow chart of the way the WQARF process works. I believe Eric has already touched on this, so I will skip over it and just point us out to the very bottom of that chart where it's circled in green. It says implementation of remedy. That's currently where this site is at. And that's because we just completed a record of decision, ROD, last month. And that document is the state's it's the memorial of the decision the state has made regarding the remedy of the site. Next slide. All right, so I'll be giving a little background on the site, and then I'll be discussing the remedy as described in the ROD, and then I'll also go over the cost of that remedy, or the estimated cost. So unless you want to look at the picture a little more, the next slide. All right, so this site, as the others you have seen, is a chlorinated solvent site. The contaminants of concern are tetrachloroethene and trichloroethene, or PCE and TCE. Both of those have a legal limit the state has set. We call it an aquifer water quality standard of 5 micrograms per liter. The source of the contamination is a former dry cleaning facility that was located on the southwest corner of Central and Camelback. The media that was impacted, which media, fancy word for the stuff, was the groundwater and the soil were both impacted. You'll see soil is grayed out, groundwater is grayed out on the left there. That is because the groundwater currently meets the legal standard of 5 micrograms per liter, which is absolutely wonderful. Unfortunately, the soil is still contaminated such that it does not pass soil standards. So our soil treatment is currently underway. Next slide. So jumping right into the remedy as described in that record of decision, for soil, we're doing soil vapor extraction. It's abbreviated as SVE there. And this is the same technology Dr. Cox, or as she likes to be called, Hazel, was discussing in the previous slides. This is the one you saw that was at the source area of her 7th and Missouri site. So the way this works, it's kind of like a big vacuum that you plug into the soil, and it pulls air out of the spaces in between the soil particles. That air that it pulls out is laden with volatilized compounds that we're trying to treat, which is the PC and the TCE. So the way the record of decision has decided the remedy will be implemented is through a pulse cycle operation. That's the same as the cyclic operation Hazel had discussed. So what we will do is we will turn the system on. We will sweep out all the contaminants and the vapors between the soil particles, and then we'll turn it off and let the the contaminants desorb off the soil particles, get back into the vapor where we can get our hands on them, and we'll flip the system on again to sweep out all the contaminants. The system itself has 7 wells. These have already been installed. And then it uses granular activated carbon to treat the chemicals that we pull out. We run it through that carbon. Chemicals adsorb to the surface of the carbon, and then we discharge clean air to the atmosphere. So the duration, as you can see there, is we're expecting this to be completed within 10 years, but it could be completed sooner. There's a few conditions the ROD is set. One of those is property development. Should a developer come to this site and deem it will be non-residential use, that would change the standards by which we use to evaluate whether or not the contaminant has been remediated. The other condition would be a property developer actually developing the property, perhaps excavating out the contaminated soil and putting in a parking garage or something of that nature. That would actually be an optimal solution, as the contaminated soil be completely removed from the site. Next slide. So the groundwater remedy, I would love to say, is complete because we are below the legal standard in Arizona for the PCE and TCE. But we will continue monitoring the groundwater for at least 10 years. And we are doing that because there was a recent change to the conditions of the groundwater at the site, a physical change. The building at the southeast corner of Central and Camelback has a dewatering system. They have a series of pumps underneath that building. Those pumps withdraw water. They've been there historically to actually keep the groundwater table lower so that it doesn't flood the underground parking garage beneath the building. Recently, those pumps were shut off, which will influence the way the groundwater moves in that area. So that creates a certain amount of uncertainty. If there was anything that those pumps had been drawing under the building that we couldn't access previously, they could now flow out from underneath the building since these pumps are no longer be trapping them. So to account for that uncertainty, the remedy has prescribed that we maintain the monitoring of the groundwater for at least the next 10 years. As we'll do that by using the existing groundwater monitoring well network, which is 23 wells. We've already installed those, paid for them. We also have plans to put in 4 additional wells to install them and then monitor them. And that would be real close to that building to catch any contaminants that might come out of it once the groundwater flow directions have changed in that area. Additionally, we also sample the Brophy production well to the south, which is a production well that draws water for the Brophy school.
Did you need me to zoom in on anything on this? I know it might be hard to see.
Oh, you could zoom in on all of it. But if you want to zoom easily, Barb, if you hold down Control and then use your mouse wheel up.
Yeah, I know. Do you
Oh,
want
you know
me
that one? All right.
Do you want me to zoom in?
Sure. Sure. You can see some of the concentrations we have most recently detected there. They're a little blurry, but they are in green.
Oh, yeah.
The thing to point out is all the numbers are below 5, which is the legal limit. I think the highest we found was about 3.9 micrograms per
Right
liter.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you can barely see it, but the ones that have no green next to them, that means we found nothing. We sampled them and they were less below the laboratory's ability to detect the compound.
Okay.
And on to the cost, where the money goes. So we're looking at it's a 10-year remedy, and then the year 11 would kind of be the shutdown and the closure of the site, the abandoning of the wells. But I've got the first year highlighted to kind of give you an idea of where we're at in this process. But grand total, as you can see, is about 3.3 million is the assumption. Could be less. The site could close early if we, can get the soil cleaned up faster and come up with a way to ameliorate some of the uncertainty that we have regarding the groundwater flow underneath the 1 East Camelback building. And I will just read this last slide to you guys. Questions?
Is this where we would make comments about the report, which I'm trying to pull up now?
The record of decision?
That's right.
Barb, you're better at
You
doing
can,
appropriate public
so
comments
you
on.
can make, you mean like an official comment on the rod?
Well, I found a typo. The figures are missing, and I had a question about one of the comments that were made by the city of Phoenix. That's what I have to say about that. That's where I'm going. So,
Okay, yeah, I mean, for sure, yeah, you can let us know now. You can also let us know in email or whatever, but for sure you can let us know now. That'd be fine.
okay. On page 11, the second bullet, there's a typo. There's a capital P and a smaller case P in property. First word in that bullet.
Okay.
On page 28, the figures are missing. I don't see any on my PDF. And let me get to page 32. On page 32, the city writes that, well, it's Miss Ryman Schneider. She asks, no, that's not, yeah, it's comment number 4. I'm sorry. She asked a question about will operate up to 10 years. And I honestly, I can't figure out that the ADEQ response answered that question. But I'll leave that up to finer minds than mine. And that's the end of my comments.
I don't know if we can answer that question tonight.
Well, don't worry. I'm not worried.
Because yeah, I don't know that we have it, open in front of us and can like get but we can get an answer to you.
Okay.
So we've got it written down and we can hopefully get a better explanation of whatever the response was that you're not, that doesn't make sense to you.
Yeah. Well, did it make sense to you, Stan?
Oh, you're muted, Stan. There you go.
I think I understood what they were saying, but I probably could have
That's
been
good
a little-
enough for me.
Could have been clearer. Yeah.
Well, we want it to be clear, so we can try to clear it up a little. We can definitely try to get a clearer explanation to you guys for sure. And thanks very much for pointing out the typos. We try to get a lot of eyes on our reports and anything that goes out to the public, but nobody's perfect. And sometimes when we all look at something multiple times, we miss the little things. So we definitely appreciate those extra eyes finding these things.
Barb, I can address the lack of figures that may have gone out.
Okay.
I did when I took the project over and reviewed the rod. I noted there was a copy where the figures had not been attached to it, and I have corrected it, and I do have one on our server. I'm not sure which version's on the website though.
Okay.
So I did. That was something I had noted and corrected, but again, I'm not sure which version of the web.
Okay.
Oh, I'll check the website because I took my version off of the email, and I didn't take it from the website. So,
okay. Well, either way, Barb, I have a version you can send out that has figures on it.
Yeah, I'll check right away after the meeting and make sure that what's on the website has the figures. If it doesn't, I'll get it replaced right away, and I'll make sure you guys get one with the figures as well.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Barb.
Yep.
Very welcome.
Anybody else have any comments or questions about the presentation or the report?
Yeah, this is Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's appropriate. You made reference to a possibility of a developer moving, but they'd have to remove the soil. Is that negotiated as part of any building permit, or how does that work? Or is that land going to stay fallow for the 10 years? Well, we don't know.
Well, it's a private parcel, and to my knowledge, there are no legal restrictions. At least the department has not put any legal restrictions on the user development of the parcel. But if
But
a
they'd have to,
developer, pardon?
they have to remove the soil to do a
No,
development?
no.
That's my question.
Uh, no, I don't believe you have to remove soil to do development. I do not know I couldn't answer as to any
Okay.
legal ramifications of knowingly developing a contaminated site or what that would mean for a developer. But I can just tell you the state has not restricted the use on the parcel.
So in a perfect world, the developer would want to come in, put a parking garage down below and get rid of all the soil.
If a developer came to the site wanting to develop it in such a manner, then ADEQ would be happy to work with them in order to help ensure that such a thing was accomplished safely and in a responsible manner.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I don't think anyone at a site that large is going to do anything silly and stupid, but one you never know. But you answered my question. If someone came in, ADQ would work with them because it would relieve a financial pressure on the amount of money that's available.
Yes, we have prospective purchaser agreements and such where it's a covenant between the state and a proper purchaser of a parcel, pretty much a covenant not to sue kind of thing. But it requires a substantial benefit, and that kind of thing could be negotiated. An agreement can become
I just want to make sure that no one does any.
No,
I guess my question is naive, but there's no reason not to ask it. So thank you very much, Cal.
You're welcome.
Stan, I see you have your hand raised.
Right. I had a couple questions. First, related to what Matthew was just talking about. One of the comments in the ROD was a suggestion by the commenter that the parcel could be developed as a mini park or something like that. And what would we still be meeting residential standards if that sort of use was implemented, or would that fall under different standards?
I believe a park would be under different standards than a residential.
Higher or lower?
I would hazard the guess that it would be when you say higher or lower, do you mean a higher, like a bigger number or lower number?
More protective or less protective?
It would probably be I wouldn't say less protective or more protective, but it would probably be a more contamination, a higher concentration would probably be allowed to stay in the soils. And that would be, and again, I'm hazarding mostly a guess here. I haven't really personally dealt with the situation.
Okay.
But the numbers that are come up with those standards are health-based standards, and they have to do with things like exposure time. And typically, a park would not have as high of an exposure time as someone living in a parcel that was contaminated. It would be more of a transient kind of population, and additionally, they wouldn't be housed inside buildings where contaminant vapors could be accumulated. So I would hazard the guess that it would be a less stringent number.
Okay, that makes sense. The other question has to do with one Camelback on the other side of the street. Can you remind me when they shut down their pumps?
Oh goodness, if you don't within the last 2 years, I believe maybe within the last one. I would have to look it up to give you a better guess than that.
That's good enough.
Barb, you can take note of that. Oh, okay.
That's good enough, but so since that time, have we detected any issue related to the uncertainty that you mentioned?
No, nothing concerning has happened. It's merely a precaution to continue watching it because it does create some amount of uncertainty when you change the condition of the groundwater. But we haven't seen anything alarming yet. But that's why we'll keep watching.
And would the uncertainty be less if a new owner turned them back on?
Yes, I think most of the uncertainty is derived from not being able to drill underneath that building, and therefore not being able to access the soils and groundwater underneath there to know what is under the building. And then the possibility that years of running the dewatering system would have draws water into the pump, and it could have also moved contaminants into that building, or underneath that building in the groundwater. So that's kind of where the uncertainty comes from. And then stopping that practice. Were you to turn the pumps back on, it would likely mitigate some of that uncertainty. But it's fine to turn the pumps off. There's nothing wrong with that. We can, if it comes out from under the building and it's at a concentration we can clean, we can do something about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, Barcanero here. I've always been impressed by the time lengths that we're dealing with in these reports. But this Phoenix one is the first one where, or Central Phoenix, Central and Camelback, is the first one where I've seen dollar figures like this. And that really helped me get a sense of what the scope of the involvement is and the commitment. It may have been in prior reports, but this is the first one where I really noticed, and that it's in the millions of dollars for what you're doing. And it was really helpful to me to have a sense of the scope. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I can't take credit. The record of decision was written before I took the project over.
And it wasn't your money, so right.
And it wasn't. That's correct. It wasn't mine. Any more questions or comments? If there's no more, then I'd just like to thank you guys for all those questions. I think they were all absolutely excellent questions, all of them, as well as the comments.
Yep, thank you very much for that. Thanks, Kyle. Okay, looks like we're in for the star of the show, which we're going to welcome Eric back, and we're going to do the presentation on our recently closed site, which is 16th Street and Camelback Road. Yay. Let me pull it up.
Gee, you really set me up there, Barb. I don't know if I'm the star of the show, but thank you for that vote of confidence.
There you go.
Okay.
Take it away.
All right, thank you. Well, this is a success that we don't have too often here at Remedial Projects Unit, so I'm very happy to present on this site for you all. We were able to delist the 16th Street and Camelback Wharf site this year. Next slide, please. Just as a recap of where we are here, 16th Street and Camelback is literally located at the corner of 16th Street and Camelback Road. It's just west of the 51 freeway there. The impacted media was groundwater. Contaminants concern are PCE. The sources are a suspected former dry cleaner. It was located in that Camelback Colonnade area that you can see on the southeast part of the intersection of 16th Street and Camelback. And there was also a former service station just to the south, closer to Highland Avenue. Right, next slide, please.
For those keeping track, this would be about 16 blocks from the See's Candy store.
Okay. Yeah, it's not too far from the Biltmore area there. That's also one of my favorite places to visit in Phoenix. I used to visit there a lot when I used to live in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So, so on this figure, you can see all those monitor wells on the map. There's not too many of them, but the green circles represent monitor wells that we're using to monitor both groundwater levels and groundwater contamination. The orange circles represent monitor wells that were converted into injection wells when we started the ERD remedy, kind of similar to 7th and Bethany. This site we used sucrose primarily. It's sugar-based media. We also did some what we call bioaugmentation, but we injected an inoculum or a culture of Dihalococoides. That's our favorite bacteria that we like to focus on for degrading chlorinated solvents. And as I took the project on in 2017, I realized, hey, we have a little gap there between MW10, which had gone dry, and MW12. The source area was actually between MW1 and MW10. That's about where we believe the former dry cleaner was. And so I realized we needed a monitor point between the MW10 and MW12, those two injection points. So I installed MW10R. If you look to the south, MW11 was a monitoring well that went dry a few years prior to me taking over the site. So I wanted to install additional well. Highland Avenue would have been a nice place to put it, but it's an extremely busy road, and I just didn't want to endanger crews. I didn't want to hold up traffic, so I moved a few blocks south and I installed it. Yep, right there. Thanks, Barb. And yeah, that well has been non-detect for PC ever since we installed it. MW10R was the main well we were focusing on. The other wells had concentrations of PCE that were below aquifer water quality standards, except for that one well. That was what I called our problem well. That was keeping us from delisting the site. Next slide, please. So on this graph, you can see when we began our ERD substrate injections. That was actually started by the prior project manager before I came to ADQ in 2017. And you can see that concentrations actually started to go down after the injection events. The last injection event was in 2018, if memory serves me. And up to about 2021, you can see that all the wells had PC concentrations drop below the aquifer water quality standard, except for MW10R that I had mentioned. So I decided, well, maybe this well, we need to change our sampling strategies. Maybe things have gone a little stagnant in this well. Maybe we need to clean the well out. So I decided to do what we call a 3-volume well purge. And we install a small submersible pump down in the well. We pump 3 well volumes out of the well, and then we pull a sample from it. And lo and behold, right there, thanks, Barb, we got a concentration that was below for water quality standard. I conferred with Hazel Cox and another very smart gentleman, Chris Marks, that works for ADEQ. He's a PhD in biology, and they recommended that I do some additional sampling, only switch to low flow sampling. And I switched that methodology because in situations like this, that provides the most consistent analytical data collected from a groundwater sample. So we wanted to make sure that we were absolutely sure that we were below aquifer water quality standards in these wells and that we can indeed delist the sites. So 3 subsequent semi-annual sampling events, we had PC concentrations below aquifer water quality standards, and I was able to present the site for delisting. Next slide, please. So the factors that we looked at to determine if we could delist the site is number one, as I mentioned, all PC concentrations had to be below aquifer water quality standards, and they were since we sampled it in 2022. No municipal or private water supply wells could have been impacted by the site, and there weren't from the time that the site was listed as a WQARF site. And as a result, the site was removed from the WQARF registry on April 9th, 2025.
Yay!
So next slide. Shout out to the ADEQ team. Everyone here made this the success possible. Also, our contractors, Matrix Caliber, Pinion, and HGC, they all played a very important role in doing some of the heavy lifting for us, doing the sampling, and helping us get this site towards closure. And finally, last slide. I'd like to thank Central Phoenix CAB. Last CAB meeting we had, I believe the question was asked to me, why don't you delist the site? You have wells that are below aquifer water quality standards, so what are you waiting for? So I greatly appreciate the support of Phoenix CAB. That was also instrumental in getting the site delisted. We had the buy-in from you all, and that really makes a difference when we have the public supporting us in our efforts. So appreciate that comment. I appreciate you all coming to these CAB meetings and asking the questions that you ask. And this is a big success that we all can celebrate.
Thank you, Eric. I
Thank
do
you.
have a question. You mentioned a well going dry. Is that a term of art, or is that the water table dropping so low that you couldn't get any water?
Water table dropped so low. That well was the wells that went dry. MW11 and MW10 were drilled very early on when the site was listed as a wharf site, and they were only drilled to 80 feet below ground surface. Groundwater levels dropped down to 82 feet, and they've actually been consistent. They've actually come up a little bit a few years, but that brings up a good point. We were monitoring groundwater levels, and the fact that they weren't fluctuating was also a factor in allowing us to delist the site. They remained consistent for at least the last 10 years, from what I've seen, and they remained consistent since I took over as a project manager, and the concentrations were so low. We also tried a SVE at the very beginning, and when we were doing the remedial investigation of this site, and there was no mass that we were able to pull out of soil. It was just very minimal. It was a small release. It was a very old release, very small plume. So we felt very confident that we could delist this site as it is now.
Well, that brings up a question that I would have for all of the engineers. Uh, just this could be hard, but what has been your experience with the water table in all of the areas? What are we looking at there over the 25 years that we've been involved with the Cabot Central and Camelback and these other sites? What have you observed?
Well, I could be the first to take a shot at your question. So what I've observed is there was a period where we got, I think, to the lowest point since I've lived in Arizona since 2004, and I've been doing this work since then. I worked in consulting on other sites in the valley. I did groundwater monitoring, and the lowest point in groundwater levels that I'm familiar with, the sites that I'm familiar with, was between 2008 and 2010. We seem to have bottomed out, so to speak, as far as the drop in water levels. I have noticed an increasing trend in some of the areas. There's many different possible factors for that, but short of the story is I haven't seen water levels decrease since then. They've either remained constant or they actually fluctuated and have come up. And it could be possible that there's less groundwater pumping in the valley. I'm not sure. I have to substantiate that. But there could be various reasons why that is. Anyone else want to add to that?
I would say I've seen the same at 7th and Missouri. There was an initial drop in around the time Eric said, around 2008, 2010. We had wells that were set at 80 feet below ground surface go dry. But the current water levels have stayed pretty constant between 90 to 100 feet below ground surface at 7th and Missouri for the last 10 plus years. Even with seeing a groundwater flow direction change at that site, the elevations in general haven't changed that much.
Yeah, I'll add it. 16th Street and Camelback, groundwater direction hasn't changed at all since I took over. It's been in the same westerly direction there. So that's been very stable aquifer, at least in the immediate area there. It was a very stable plume when it was a plume.
That sounds like good news to me.
I can tell you at Central and Camelback over the last 10 years, the water has gone down probably between 1 and 5 feet. That helps.
No, that's the
No.
wrong way. I would expect, because it's generally we're not getting as much rain. And so I would expect the recharging of groundwater would be lessened. And I would expect, like at Central and Camelback, that's what I would expect. So the other stuff that I've heard is like good news. It's like, that's great. I don't know why, but that's great.
Eric, I just wanted to say congratulations. This is a big deal. I've been working in this area for about 35 years, and this is the first site I've been around that gets delisted. And so I guess we indirectly we all owe the dry cleaning industry a thank you for bringing us all together so that so that we can celebrate a victory like this, which is very rare.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting. I've been well, since I took over this project, that's been my goal, and I've been really trying to find ways that we can indeed delist this site. I knew it could happen. Oh, and by the way, we delisted it early compared to what was predicted in the ROD. So that's also a nice feather in everybody's cap here on this meeting. We actually accelerated the remedial effort there. So.
It's amazing. That's great. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments about any of the presentations tonight? Anybody that's attending here tonight? No? Okay. Like I said, feel free to reach out to us anytime with any questions about anything. If you see something you think about later, happy to answer questions anytime. Oh, we have something in chat. Let me just see what that is. Oh, congratulations. Oh, it's from Laura. Hi, Laura. I saw you were here. Laura Malone. Okay, I'm going to pull the agenda back up and we will move on to our cab business. See what's next. So the next item on the business is to talk about our yearly co-chair discussion, nomination, and vote. So as you know, in our cab charter, we are required to elect cab co-chairs every year. Luckily, we did meet last year. I think was it last year? Might have been 2 years. Um, and elect co-chairs for the cab. So right now, our current co-chairs look like it's Chad and Pam. So we need to decide whether Chad and Pam would like to remain co-chairs. If so, somebody can make a motion to keep them as co-chairs. We can move right along. If anybody else would like to nominate somebody else as co-chairs for the cab, that would be great. And then we would need a second for any of the nominations.
I move for Chad and Pam, Paul Barker.
Paul has moved for Chad and Pam. Would anybody like to second that motion?
Matthew, I'll second it.
Second. Do Chad and Pam agree with this? Kind of have to have their buy-in.
Why not?
Yeah, Pam's not here, so that's a go.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can say yes for Pam.
Yeah.
You okay with that, Chad?
I'm good with that.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chad.
Chad.
So of our cab members, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much. That is approved then with the majority. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to review and approve the last meeting minutes. Now, the last meeting minutes that we have are from September 28th of 2022. That's not the last meeting that we have had, sorry. We have had meetings since 2022. However, they did not have a quorum and they ended up not being an official CAB meeting, so they didn't have minutes that need to be approved. So our last official CAB meeting minutes were from 2022. I did send those to you in an email for you to review. I don't know if you got a chance to look. I can pull those up if you would like to review them now on the screen. Would anybody like me to pull those up on the screen for you? Or would you like to?
If everybody else is.
Otherwise, we could just go ahead and take a motion and vote on whether we want to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to go ahead and approve the minutes.
Thanks, Chad. Anybody want to second that?
Second it.
Stan? And all in favor say aye.
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 Thanks very much. It's approved. So that leaves us with the second to last bit of business on the agenda, which is talking about what we want to talk about in the future at our next meeting. Obviously, we will continue to talk about our remaining cab sites and our goal of closing even more, taking even more of these sites off the wharf registry. As I mentioned, we are very, very soon coming up on marking 25 years of the existence of this community advisory board, which I think is amazing. You know, it's amazing that the state of Arizona has community advisory boards. Not every state has these, so I'm glad that our state does. And I'm really grateful that people in our communities have stepped up to volunteer their time and brain power and effort to serving on these community advisory boards. So I really appreciate all of you for the time especially those of you who've spent, you know, decades doing this. I can't tell you how much we're grateful for this. So we're planning on marking this in some way over the next couple months. I'm not sure how, but we're going to mark this in some way because it's a real achievement. So look out for that in the next 6 months or so. But is there anything specific that you guys would like me to make note of that you would like to talk about in the future? And as always, you don't have to say it now. As you know, we try to keep you for our community advisory board members. We try to get you out email updates roughly every quarter. So we're in contact. Anything you guys think of, we can always put on agenda later on. And as we get closer to a meeting, when we know more about what's going on with the sites, we'll put things on the agenda.
Barb, here. People ask me in the community about what this is all about or what caused all this. It's really dry cleaners and dry cleaners alone. And then they ask me, well, weren't gas stations a part of this? But anyway, that's just to say that in the future, if there could just be a bit of a background of how this all happened. I remember it being a golden age of dry cleaners, and I remember all those dry cleaning establishments in particular. That's it. Just a question for the future.
Yeah. You mean, yeah, that's a good point to go over sort of the history of things, right?
And gas stations were just fine, but dry cleaners, wow.
Well, gas stations have their own issues. They're just different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Barb, this is Matthew. One question. Although we didn't have quorums on those meetings, is it possible that there was some what I'll call informal notes that could be sent around to us to kind of remind us what we've talked about for the last 3 years?
I will check. I mean,
I went back and my chicken scroll is illegible normally, and I can't even find some of my notes. But I just wondered, because I think everything has been really great moving forward. I just wondered if there was something we may have talked about that we've forgotten about by age. I'll use that term. Not for you, but some of us.
Yeah, there's a good possibility we went ahead and recorded those meetings. So
Yeah, I
we'll
just wondered if
probably
they
have
could
an
be-
audio recording of those meetings.
I
would
just
check.
wonder if they could be transcribed and said informal notes from the meeting held on as a way to remind us what we've talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll check into those meetings that weren't official CAB meetings.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure we have those notes written up. Yeah.
Yeah. that's, I've served on a couple of boards where that happens, and they do that so we
Yeah.
don't forget what we talk about.
Exactly, which is why we record, so
Yes.
that we still have the record of what went on, even though we're not
Right.
strictly required to keep the minutes. We still
Sure.
know what happened. Yeah, absolutely. We can make sure we get those recorded in writing as well. So good point.
Thank you so much.
Mhm. Well, does anybody else have anything else they want to bring up tonight? I want to thank everybody for coming. We've had quite a turnout. Really appreciate everybody showing up tonight. We've had a nice discussion, lots of good questions, some great presentations. I guess that would be it. I guess we'll see you next time. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. It's 7:15 p.m. and we will see you next time. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take
Hey,
care.
thank you all. Great meeting.
Thank you. Take
you.
care.
Thank you, everybody.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Till the
Thank you,
next time.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.